Do you feel like you're paying too much in taxes every year, or have a relationship with your current CPA where you only meet them once or just before tax time? Look, I want you to know that there is another solution to paying less in taxes and keeping more of your money. Valentino Advisors is a leading fractional CFO and CPA firm that specializes in advanced tax strategies for founders, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Valentino Advisors can help you navigate the complexity of business taxes and ensure that you're paying the least amount in tax possible. But this is far more than tax preparation. This is strategy. This is really getting into the data-driven decisions that your business needs to make in order to develop a long-term strategy that aligns for your business and personal goals. Whether you're looking to minimize tax liability, maximize your deductions, or plan for your financial future, Valentino Advisors has the expertise and experience to help you get there. Do not wait until tax season. Work with professionals today. Contact Valentino Advisors to schedule a consultation. That first mountain that you're climbing, you're mastering marketing, sales, fulfillment, and hiring. That is what's going to make you great in startup. That's what's going to make you your first million, your second million, your third million, is marketing, sales, fulfillment, and hiring. Welcome to Generation Wealth. I'm Candy Valentino, and I've been building businesses and generating wealth before I could legally order a drink. For more than 2 decades, I've built, scaled, acquired, and exited businesses, all while investing in real estate and building financial freedom. Now I want to help you expand your wealth and give you the proven roadmap to implement today. It doesn't matter if you're a part of Generation X, Generation Y, or Gen Z. It is time to join Generation Wealth. Now let's get started. Everything that made you great in your startup phase will become a liability at scale. And what does that mean? When we're first starting out in business, whether it's our first year or our 10th year, and we're just trying to get traction of, what we sell, how we sell it, and those first people that help us sell it. Those are really the 3 things in a startup phase that you need, right? What you sell, how you sell it, and some people to basically help you sell it, contractors or employees. Everything that made you great in your startup phase will become a liability when you're at scale. So when we're first thinking of that startup phase, it's what we sell, it's how we sell it, and then we need a little help selling it. That's really it. What it's going to take to go to that second phase in business, that second mountain, if you will, is going to be a completely different playbook, and it's a completely different mountain. If you imagine like 2 little triangles, you've got one triangle here, and then you've got one right next to it where it almost looks like an ascension of a mountain. That first mountain that you're climbing, you're mastering marketing, sales, fulfillment, and hiring. That is what's going to make you great in startup. That's what's going to make you your first million, your second million, your third million, is marketing, sales, fulfillment, and hiring. Those are the key focuses, if you will, when you're doing that. But when you go to scale and you want to get past and you want to start going into those 8 figures, which I believe everybody here would love to achieve, is you've got a whole other mountain to climb. The very first mountain is survival. Your business needs to survive in order to sustain. The second mountain is impact. And what you need in that second mountain is completely different. You need sales and marketing, but you need sales and marketing systems. You need people, but you don't need more people. You need leadership and management. So your problems change. You need finance, you need tax, you need legal, you need structuring, and you need M&A, which is potential merger and acquisition or exit. That's what that second mountain is all built on. So again, when we look at that first mountain, we see all of the things that maybe we did or what we're currently doing. But in order to climb that second mountain, that's where our people, processes, and systems come into play, which I know I've mentioned so many times in our time together. And in order to get through those, there are 5 exits that every single owner will have to make before they even exit a company. So there's 5 exits that every single founder, every single business owner will have to make. And I guarantee you, many of you have already done 1 or 2 of these and didn't even realize it. But these are the 5 ways that you have to exit if you ever want to truly exit. The first one is you got to exit the line. Imagine an assembly line, right? When you're working in the business, you're on the line. Now, most of you I know have kind of exited this already. This is when you are working in the business. This is you have a lot on your plate at this stage. You're beginning to start to delegation, but you're still working in it. So the very first place you have to exit is exiting the line. The second is exiting the staff. A lot of founders think that they're a CEO, but they're actually just managers and they gave themselves a fancy title. That's what I see commonly. Being able to exit the staff is exiting a place where now you have an operating system in place and you don't have to be in it anymore. You're truly stepping into the organizational chart and you're managing it. So remember that you have to not only exit the line, but you have to exit the staff. The third is probably my favorite. It's exit the org chart. You got to exit the org chart. This is when you're able to fully step out of any of the day-to-day and you bring in an operator, an operations manager, a true CEO, a true president. Maybe this is a VP of operations, and they handle all of the messy work while you still maintain the power and the control of the company. This is, if any of you that were the first founders, Rick still talked about this. This is his number one goal, is how he can fire himself as CEO and hire a different CEO to run the company. So that's why it's my favorite too, because I know that's when you can really start to get traction, because you can really start to be the entrepreneur and be the founder when you exit the line, exit the staff, and exit the org chart. The fourth, most small businesses will never have this, but this is when you exit the board. Oftentimes people will exit the org chart and they will take a board seat as chairman. This was, for example, the founder of LifeLock, Todd Davis. He realized that when he exited the org chart, that he also could not sit on the board. He exited the board at the same time because he didn't want to be chairman of the board and not actually be CEO, because he said he's a self-proclaimed control freak. So he didn't want to do that. Exiting the board means that you aren't stepping fully away as far as ownership of the company, but you are stepping away from the responsibilities and any control. This is when your income is purely passive because you're just an equity owner in the business, but you still have ownership. And then the fifth, which is what everyone talks about. Most people don't talk about all those first four exits. Most people think about going straight to exit, which that's really the fifth stage, and that's exiting ownership. That's what you think about when you hear exit. This is when you're cashing out of your investment. This is when you have, nothing left. You're selling it all. You're planning to go, live at the beach until you realize 3 months later that you're not going to be able to do that because you're an entrepreneur at your core, like this person did. But this is when you can start to do a new venture or something different or have more control with your life, right? This is the fifth, is exiting the ownership. And so my question to you is, and it doesn't matter if we're in May 30th, 2023, or if we're September 30th of 2023, or if we're in 2024, your reoccurring question should always be, which exit do you need to make? Which exit do you need to make? And which exit are you poised to make in the next 12 months? Because if we look at these five and we even think about every single year or every 2 years, you're making one of these exits. By the time you have 10 years in and you have a sustainable, scalable model, now you have the ability to have a return, a pretty decent return, because you've built a business that lives without you and you've demonstrated year after year how you've been able to make these exits in order to make the exit. So I just want to wrap up number one, everything that made you great will become a liability. Always remember that first mountain is marketing, sales, fulfillment, hiring. The second mountain is going to be deepening your skills, becoming a better leader, developing management tiers inside of your company, having better and more systems, having stronger tax strategy and legal, understanding how to structure the business in order to maximize that depending on your end goal, obviously finance, and then the potentials of merger and acquisitions. And I think when we hear M&A, so if you ever hear people run those letters together, M&A, it sounds like M-N-A, but it's actually the letter M and A. Stands for mergers and acquisitions. People think of corporate, large companies, massive things like, I'm never going to do that. There are so many other ways that you can do mergers and acquisitions. For example, you have a mastermind or a program, you find somebody else has a mastermind and a program and you align together. You guys split equity, you have different roles, different places that you're bringing into the business. Now you have one larger company, you're distributing and sharing profits, but you're bringing other people in that have your maybe weaknesses and you have theirs, right? So this is a way you can do mergers and acquisitions in a really small way. It doesn't have to be significantly large. So always remember that, the 5 exits, and then which exit do you need to make in the next 12 months? Meaning that if we did nothing but work on that one thing for the next 12 months, what would move the needle the most in your business? And then developing a plan to do that. The second law of scale, and this is, I know we've touched on this, but I don't think I've ever put it in this form before, that the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. The more valuable you are to the business, the less valuable the business is. And I know we've talked about this several times, right? When you're looking at the different ways that what a buyer is really looking at, right? They're looking at solvency, profitability, market, but they're also looking at organization efficiency. They want to make sure that when you're stepping out of this role, that the business isn't going to crumble, that the income isn't relying on you. So the more valuable you are, the less valuable the business is at exit. Now, remember, when you're in the growth phase, you may be far more valuable inside the business and needed because you're just not quite ready to exit the org chart. That's why it's important to just know where you are and what's the next exit for you. And then perhaps you are the talent inside of the business, right? You're the artist. This is even more important then for you to have an entrepreneur that comes alongside of you in that business in order to be able to still increase the level of business without that person, so that if you ever did want to exit, now you could just replace yourself, but the business isn't determined on you. And how do you actually do that? You have to go through those 5 exits because you are not scalable. Right? Our phones are operating if everybody here has an iPhone, you're operating on the iOS system. The UOS system is not scalable because it's you. So it's always important to remember that if you are going to scale and grow, you have to create a better operating system to manage the business and not you managing the day-to-day. And I think it's important to have these conversations because oftentimes we hear about these words, and I don't know if people think that it's easier to do an exit or easier to stay. It's really hard. It's really hard to exit. It's really hard to step out of the business. It's really hard to get out of our own ways. It just truly is. Entrepreneurs think that it's easier for some strange reason, but it is really freaking hard and it takes a lot of time. But so if you're feeling, stuck or frustrated or feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in it and that's okay. Like you're not broken. Your business isn't broken. You just need a new mountain. You're on a new mountain that you're trying to climb. And so you need some new tools, some new shoes. It's like the difference of climbing for anyone in Arizona, Mummy Mountain as opposed to Camelback Mountain. You need different gear. You need different equipment. You need a different map in order to get there. So it's the same thing with business, always making sure that when you're on that second, you have your minimal viable product, you have proof of concept, you have people that are helping you. Now we got to get to that second mountain and really understand the rest of business in order to go through those 5 exits and ever get out of the day-to-day. The third law of scale is every single problem at scale is a who, not how. Every single problem, and I'll take this one step further, every single problem that you have in your business right now, whether you're at 500,000 or 5 million, every single problem that you have right now is a who, not a how. When you're at scale, the number one thing that's the most important is time. And the more who's you can have, you can move with greater speed so that you can see trends in the market and understand what's going on and really bring people in to the business in order to hire the talent. This is when you start to get traction. You see that paying for top quality talent is worth you'll always get an ROI on that. As opposed to waiting for it or you doing it. Remember the 30X rule, remembering that 30X, if it takes you 5 minutes to do something and you can train someone that takes 30 times that 5 minutes. So if, oh my gosh, if I got to sit down with this person, it's going to take 2 hours and 10 minutes for them to get it, or 1 hour 2 times, or 10 minutes 20 times. Remember, over time, in 5 months, you will have an ROI on that investing in your time, as long as you have the right who. People and processes is what I believe most people won't invest in, but it's the number one thing you can invest in order to move forward more quickly. And it's scary in the beginning because oftentimes we don't have endless budgets and we don't think that like, oh my gosh, this is so much money. But when you do pay for more quality people, if you hire and source them right, you're typically going to get a better quality result. And it helps get people aligned with what your vision is and what you're really looking to do. First mountain is to start up, is to get there. Second mountain is to scale. That's to your impact. Creating an operating system, that's the number 2. That's remembering that the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. That's creating an operating system. And then number 3 is remembering that every problem at scale is a who problem, not a how problem. The number one question in this side, right, on what we're talking about now to determine whether you're at growth or scale is what is your current bottleneck? So you can call them break points. You can call them valve restrictions. Bottleneck seems to land. What is your current bottleneck? And just answer that question. Every single month, what is your current bottleneck to get where you want to go, right? Because this is all reverse engineering for where we want to go. And then instead of thinking of how you're going to solve that bottleneck, I want you to flip the script and say, who is the solution? What is your current bottleneck and who is the solution? You want to increase sales? Your who's are going to be service providers or people that can get on and do sales. If you want to increase leads in order to capture those sales, you're going to have to find a who to go get more of those leads that understands lead gen, right? What is your current bottleneck and who becomes that next solution? And I know it might sound like a very simple thing to ask, but it unlocks an entirely different way to look at a problem. Oftentimes we think of a problem, we think we are the ones that have to solve it, and we think of how we have to solve that problem. And then we typically do 25 things where, oh, it's going to take me this much time. I don't have that much time. As opposed to just pausing, taking a breath. What is the bottleneck and who do I need? This will unlock a totally different side of your brain to see business in another way, and it'll help you scale and grow better and faster with less stress, because you'll realize that it's not the how and it's not you that needs to do it. It's kind of like, I think entrepreneurs a lot of times are like the quarterback on the football team, right? But you can't win a Super Bowl with a great quarterback. Like how many teams have a great quarterback, but their defensive line sucks, right? I don't know a lot about sports, but I know those couple things. It's like you got to have a strong offensive line to protect the quarterback. You got to have a strong defensive line to make sure they don't charge the ball. So making sure that you look at team, your who, and your processes, your people and your processes as your systems. And oftentimes we think, okay, let's go to processes. But if you don't have enough who's to get in that operating system, you're going to be spinning your wheels, training new people all the time. It's like this perpetual hamster wheel that entrepreneurs get on. So asking the who and not how will allow you also to get more of your time back. You know, for those of you that have kids or families or just want to have more life in your days, asking about the who is what's going to help you get to be with your family more. It's going to help get you to travel more. It's really surrounding yourself with people. And that's the only way that you'll ever scale and exit, is to have a lot of who's, unless you have intellectual property that just anybody can plug in and white label and do on their own. But making the shift from a who instead of a how will truly help you in every single stage of your business. And if I did nothing but our time together was just always focusing on the numbers and the data, because the only way in order to get over that second mountain, every road leads through your finances. The way that you're going to keep wealth is through your taxes. The way that you're going to even do that better is by understanding structure and evolving your business structure when it needs to. It's having proper legal so that you don't have any potential problems down the road. And it's really focusing on these 3 laws of scale and getting through those 5 exit strategies first in order to ever be able to truly focus on wanting to exit. So every single month, if you did nothing but this and you focused on this and you got yourself in bigger rooms and bigger conversations with people doing things that you want to be doing, because I can tell you one thing, being in business a really long time, if somebody would have told me this when I was 19 years old, the things that I would have done, the people I would have met, the friends I would have, the house I would live in, like I wouldn't even have been able to wrap my brain around what's possible, because my view of the world was so small. Because when you're a big fish in a small pond, right, you don't continue to stretch and grow. So being in other rooms, making sure that you're having conversations that you're like, shit, I don't even know if I understand this fully. That's the right conversation to have. Because 5 years down the road, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it will open your brain up to possibilities that you didn't even think were possible for yourself or your industry. And I know so many of you are soaring in your specific industry, but your industry as a whole may not be all that profitable. It may not be all that great. But if you really kind of get focused on every single month reviewing the data, your KPIs, your business metrics, your numbers, understanding what the numbers mean, reducing your taxes, making sure that as you grow that team, you're protecting yourself with legal, making sure you have the right contracts, the right agreements, non-disparagement clauses, all of the things so that you can protect yourself, and then getting through each one of those exits and not allowing the urgent, unimportant things that happen day to day in your business to drag you back in it, right? It's always that constant evolution. So the questions, just to recap, is which exit do you need to make in the next 12 months? What is your current bottleneck? And who is your next solution? All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. And if you love this episode, I'm asking you for one huge favor. Share it. Tag me on social at Candy Valentino, or if you thought of someone during this episode who might benefit from the content, text it to them, send it to them. Make sure that you are tagging your friends in the comments if you see it on social. I would be so grateful if we could get this out into more hands, more ears, and to more people in the world. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Generation Wealth.